people, we've got our Tottenham back. That's.
Hello and welcome to an iconic edition of The Last Word on Spurs. If you're with us for the very, very first time, you can find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're across all major audio platforms. We're of course on X, we're on Facebook, Blue Sky 2. We are here reacting to what is the big breaking news. That is Daniel Levy has stepped down as the chairman of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. In this show, you'll be getting reaction and analysis to Daniel Levy stepping down from myself and Jamie, and of course, our wonderful guest, Paul O Keefe, who is on the show. It was billed to be inside the window. It is now seeing Daniel Levy's departure and what that means for the future of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I can tell you in casting is Lee McQueen, Jason McGovern, Billie T, Richard Cracknell. They're getting their shampooed, all eyed up. They're getting nicely massaged in the background. God, where is this going? And here we are. Look, it's an iconic show. So please, if I can ask you to like and subscribe to this very special edition of Last Word on Spurs. And sorry to the wonderful John Wenham out there. I've got to steal a John Wenham line here. Is that could a club fit in more over one summer? They win their first major trophy in over 17 years. They sacked the manager who achieved that in Ange Postecoglou. They hire Thomas Frank through the door. They certainly do. Donna Cullen leaves the club after 20 years. Captain Heung-Min Son leaves after a decade at the football club. Romero remains and is given the captaincy by Thomas Frank. The club plays their first ever Super Cup final, and Daniel Levy departs the club after a quarter of a century. Before I bring in the guys, let's go to the statements that we've had in this respective manner. This situation. And like I say, Daniel Levy has stepped down from his role as chairman of Tottenham Hotspur, although the club have stressed there is no change to the actual ownership of the organisation. Peter Charrington is the new non-exec chairman. Levy was, of course, the executive chairman. So Vinay Venkatesham, as things stands, is hands-on with the day-to-day running of the club as CEO. Levy and his family still own or are beneficiaries of 29.88% of ENIC's share of the football club. And Spurs, like we said, announced on Thursday that Daniel Levy has stepped down from his role as executive chairman after nearly 25 years at the helm. That statement read, Tottenham Hotspur has been transformed over the last quarter of a century. It has played in European competitions in the last 18 of 20 seasons, becoming one of the world's most recognised football clubs, consistently investing in its academy, players and facilities, including a new world-class stadium, state-of-the-art training centre. The club has also competed regularly at the highest level, enjoying a number of fantastic on-field successes, including the recent Europa League Cup win. As part of its succession planning, the club has made a number of senior appointments in recent months. Vinay Venkatesham was hired as the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, with Thomas Frank as our new men's head coach and Martin Ho as women's head coach. Peter Charrington joined the board and will step into the newly created role of non-executive chairman. This is all part of the club's ambition to ensure that it's set up to deliver long-term sporting success. Daniel Levy personally spoke on his behalf about his time as chairman of the football club for almost over a quarter of a century and said, I'm incredibly proud of the work I've done together with the executive team and our employees. We have built this club into a global heavyweight competing at the highest level. More than that, we have built a community. I was lucky enough to work with some of the greatest people in this sport, from the team at the White House and Hotspur Way to all the players and managers over the years. I wish to thank all the fans that have supported me over the years. It hasn't always been an easy journey, but significant progress has been made. I will continue to support this club passionately. Peter Charrington also gave a statement of his own in which he said, I'm very proud and honoured to become the non-executive chairman of this extraordinary club. And on behalf of the board, I would like to thank Daniel and his family for their commitment and loyalty to the club over so many years. This is a new era of leadership for the club on and off the pitch. And I do recognise there has been a lot of change in recent months as we put in place new foundations for the future. We are now fully focused on stability and empowering talented people across the club, led by Vinay Venkatesham and his executive team. The club, as I said in the opening part of this, have stressed there are no changes to the ownership or shareholder structure of the football club. And it is worth bearing in mind that in December of last year, ENIC did inject 35 million of capital into Spurs, which increased their holding within the Premier League outfit to an 86.91% share, up from the 86.58%. Of that, and this is really key to notice about ENIC's share of the club and a trust of the Joe Lewis family are beneficiaries that own 70.12%, while Daniel Levy and his family are potential beneficiaries of the discretionary trust, which own 29.88% of that share capital. We've also had David Lammy also give a statement of his own, of course, Member of Parliament for Tottenham. He said Daniel Levy's contribution to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club has been immense. There has been so many unforgettable moments and players over the last 25 years. The League Cup in 2008, Gareth Bale's heroics in the 3-1 win over Inter Milan, Harry Kane's 280 goals. We, of course, have been there through the thick and the thin, but even throughout this tumultuous times on the pitch, he delivered a world-class stadium for the fans and the constituency and transformed Tottenham into a global music destination, attracting artists from Beyonce to Kendrick Lamar. He established the Tottenham Hotspur Foundation, which has had a life-changing effect on people across our community, and he now departs with Spurs back in the Champions League with a Europa League trophy and an exciting new manager at the helm. I want to thank him for all that he's achieved for the corner of the North London region. His service to Spurs and this constituency won't be forgotten. Now, before I bring Paul in, look, there'll be fans out there, rightly so. A lot of fans are delighted by this news. Some fans are maybe an element of concern as to what the future holds. But look, I would be a hypocrite if I stood here or sat here or spoke here and said, this has been a change that we've personally been advocating for on Last Word on Spurs. We've only been behind Change For Spurs in this last year and a half, 2 years. And I think, only me speaking personally, there comes a time where what we saw in Bilbao, only 3.5 months ago, that can't be a situation where we have to wait another 17 years for it. And look, there'd be no guarantee if Daniel Levy stayed here that we would have to wait another 17 years for it. But I think when we had that success, I think as a fan base, we all want more of it. We're striving for more. We want more. So this is a step in the direction where the club are going to show that ambition on the pitch as well as off the pitch. It's a welcome, of course, decision. But time will ultimately tell. Let's go to a man that is going to tell us a lot more about this decision and potentially some of the inside knowledge that we wouldn't know, previous fans. I mean, Paul, it has been a crazy last 24 hours for those watching this or listening to this back on the playback. What the hell has happened?
Yeah, I mean, where do you start? It's just it's Tottenham, isn't it? It's Tottenham all over. It's ironic that Daniel goes in a year that they win a trophy. The other 17 years that they haven't delivered anything, and he managed to survive. So, yeah, it's quite interesting. Tottenham, obviously, over the summer decided that, the ENIC themselves decided, the people that obviously now have more of a foot in the door, if you like, because of Joe was never really that interested in the day-to-day running of the club, as far as I understood it. Daniel was pretty much given a free rein, and I think that basically all that's happened is it's dropped down to a lot of the younger generation, if you like, although they're probably in their 40s themselves, who want to get involved and have different ambitions to Daniel. And from what I understand, Daniel's ambitions don't match those of the incumbent ENIC family. So, and like I say, he was probably given a bit of rope by Joe because he just made him a profit every year and nothing was ever sort of a problem. And I think that they just want to see a change, and they felt that Daniel was the one to sort of perish for that. So I do think, it's opinion, but I do believe that he was pushed out the door. I don't believe that Daniel Levy leaves Tottenham under any circumstances of his own volition. That just doesn't wash with me, that one. It's not factual, but that's my opinion on it. I can never see a day where Daniel willingly walked away from Tottenham Hotspur.
Do you know when this decision was started? Like when the Lewis family and perhaps ENIC started to make this decision and really review Levy's position?
Yeah, I mean, so 2 months ago, I was told that senior management have been informed that there will be changes at Tottenham, and the way it was worded to me was that the management structure and layout will change, and Daniel could be removed from the footballing side of the operation. So I took that as not him actually leaving the club, but him moving away potentially from the footballing side. And in my own mind, I thought, oh, maybe they're going to make him like sort of a operations manager, if you like, sort of the overseeing of the finances and how the club does its business off the pitch, and then you get football people into to do the on the pitch stuff. So that's the way I sort of saw it. I didn't see it as him actually being binned, but I mean, looking back, you can sort of go, actually, that was fairly fairly obvious in some respects with some of the messages that were sort of coming across. So yeah, I mean, you just don't. We're so used to Daniel Levy. There's a generation of fans that have known no other chairman. They've known no other sort of regime other than Daniel Levy. And I think Daniel Levy at times become sort of almost bigger than the club in some respects, because people would talk about Daniel Levy rather than Tottenham. It was Daniel Levy's Tottenham, Daniel Levy this, Daniel Levy that. So, and a massive generation of people have grown up with that sort of understanding that it's Daniel Levy's Tottenham. So to actually remove him is seismic. It's a massive decision, and it's a massive change for Tottenham. So now we have to see, you know, the ENIC sort of brief, if you like, or the word coming out of their camp is that they're ambitious on the football side of things, but obviously seeing is believing, and we have to sort of wait and see on that one.
I'm interested, Paul, to know from you. Obviously, the one thing that comes to mind straight away is with obviously ENIC still retaining obviously a huge degree of control of the club. Whether we're now in a situation where they would look to potentially sell, which again we'll come on to it in the show. There's been murmurs out there. The club may be looking to sell. The current organisation of ENIC may be looking to sell, or whether there's going to be that genuine investment that comes in that puts Tottenham at a level where they can strive to compete with those big boys. You know that money isn't the be all and end all. Doesn't mean if you spend money you're going to be guaranteed a winning. No. But obviously, you know, the reality is now we're in a league where it's difficult to compete with nation states as such to try and win leagues and cups.
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with a friend of mine just before coming on here, and we were talking. I said to him, if you actually sit back and look at this summer window, it was different. The players, the caliber of the players they were targeting were completely different. Now, Daniel's way would have been, oh, we haven't got a left winger. Let's buy 2 15, 20 million pound players, throw them in the squad. You never know, it might work. And then, worst comes to worst, we'll get our money back on them. They didn't do that this time. They went 55 million at Kudus. They went 55, 60 million at Simmons. You know, and they went for an established player in Polina, who's a 30-year-old footballer. That is not a Daniel Levy type signing. And he's a brilliant footballer, by the way. That's probably the best signing out of the lot for me. And obviously, on the last day, they managed to get an experienced, proper player in Mwani over the line. And they didn't do what they've done so many times and just buy some obscure left winger from somewhere like an NJ or whatever. No disrespect, but you know that's not the level of player that Tottenham should be targeting. And so, in a way, there's been little tiny hints, I think, and certainly with the wages that they offered Kuti, obviously, you know, talking 200 grand. And I know that Simmons, Xavi Simmons, is not far behind. He's a couple of quid behind. So that's big money for Tottenham. It's not Daniel Levy trend. That's not how he behaves. So I think it's been very fascinating, to be fair, the players that they targeted in the window.
Do you think Daniel Levy had much of a control in the transfer window? Because it just feels so bizarre. Well, I mean, maybe the timing, but you know, they've announced it just after the transfer window. It felt like Daniel Levy did have some sort of control in what we did. But do you think he played a role in this summer?
Look, he would have led negotiations. The point is, what structure around those negotiations is he leading? Is he the one that's decided, oh, we've only got this budget or that budget? Because it's very easy to spend other people's money. So I'm sure if you said to Daniel Levy, go and negotiate this deal, you've got £70 million to play with. That's a completely different ball game to him him making the decision that there's only 15-20 million pound to play with. So he would have been involved heavily in negotiations. Of course he would. That's his role. But you got to look beyond that as to what the brief was on how much we could go to on X player and Y player and Z player. So he would have been following, to a degree, following orders to a certain extent.
Paul, at the moment, it's understood that Vinay Venkatesham is handling the day-to-day running of the club. Is that your personal understanding that Vinay now is taking control and will be doing the day-to-day running?
Yeah, by the sounds of it, talking to people this evening, he's going to be the main man, and I think that he was brought in knowing this. I mean, if you look back at the interview with Daniel and them gushing over each other, I think he wasn't brought in on the understanding that he's going to be some sort of side man. So yeah, I think he's going to be the top boy there. Peter Charrington, obviously, at the moment is stepping in to the role of non-exec chairman, isn't it? So I mean, it's only just sort of broken 3 or 4 hours ago, so there's all sorts of stuff flying around. So trying to decipher what's true and what's not is going to be difficult at the moment. But I think Vinay's role will be very, very prominent.
Do we know when Levy was kind of made aware of this situation? Because obviously for us it's come out of nowhere, but I'm sure Levy would have known quite a while ago that this was going to be the case. Do we know when he first found out, and maybe even his feelings? I don't know how he feels about this situation, because as the statement said, we all thought he was the one stepping down, but it seems like he's been pushed.
Yeah, it appears that the decision was made 2 months ago, and that the top level brass and the top people that needed to know knew then that this would be the plan, and they'd get through the transfer window and then they'd announce it. That's the information I received this evening. So no reason to disbelieve that. It would make sense. You can't just chop him and make it a complete shock to everyone, and even the people that are employed at the club. There has to be some sort of contingency plan and how they're going to move forward. So yeah, that I would say would be pretty much near the mark about 2 months ago. And it's funny because now looking back, there's a clip where Levy gave an interview with Gary Neville, which again was totally out of character for him because he doesn't like doing that sort of stuff. And he says in the clip, it's one of those things where when I'm gone, they'll look back and say it was successful. So, whether you take that now as a little bit of a hint that he knew that the game was up, sort of thing, it's quite interesting.
How do you think, Paul, and we'll come on to, like I say, a bit more of the inside knowledge on this, how do you think Daniel Levy will be remembered? Is it too early to say that because we don't quite know what comes next in the future? Look, again, amazing training ground, brilliant stadium, but I know you've said this before and I've said this before, that if Tottenham were to go and play Hackney Marshes, the fans would go and watch Tottenham Hackney Marshes. They wouldn't care where Tottenham are playing. You go and watch Tottenham play. That's the reality. The big thing about football has always been winning. Winning has always been what it's about, and it always will be. And like I said, I know Daniel, in terms of it, obviously coming into the club, has changed the financial landscape of Tottenham. You can't get away from that. But the reality is that before Daniel and before ENIC, Tottenham were a club that did have success in cups. They didn't win the league every year. They didn't win the cups every year, but the club did have a tradition in a side that were a cup side. That's where my dad, bless him, obviously brought me into Spurs at a very, very young age, nicknamed after Ricky Villa. That's where it all came from. So I just wonder, when you look at how Daniel will be remembered, do you think it's too early? Because you made a great point there. There are viewers and listeners of this show that only know Daniel Levy. I think Jamie will only know Daniel Levy as being the chairman of this club and would not have known anybody different to be at the chairman or the helm of this football club.
Exactly. And so we who knows, when we look back, we might say it's the worst decision we ever made. I don't think that's going to be the case. However, you have to sort of caveat that. But yeah, his legacy, it's a tough one. I mean, he's obviously done a lot of stuff that's been financially very beneficial to the club, and with the stadium that's phenomenal and all the rest of it. But don't forget, he wanted to move us to Stratford. So, there's always a little bit of a caveat with Daniel. There's always a yeah, but I don't know. I think we had a generational talent in Harry Kane, and we didn't do enough to keep him. So I blame Daniel for that. There's a lot of good stuff he would have done financially, which we as fans probably don't see the benefit of. But then I think that he took advantage of fans in the sense of exploiting their loyalty and the ticket pricing and the fiasco about, the Super League, and then it was, oh yeah, well, we're coming out of that now and trying to dress that up, and Spurs took the government money, didn't they, and all that sort of stuff, and took interest-free loans, and as a business, yeah, you do that, and obviously the developments of hotels and Beyonce concerts and God knows what else. But as fans, I know that stuff has to happen to build, revenue streams and all the rest of it. But as fans, when you're sitting 17th in the league and you're building hotels, that is never going to go down well. That's just a simple fact. And yeah, like I say, we may well look back and go, "Blimey, what a job he did." But at the same time, we have to press on and be ambitious on the pitch. You can't have all that infrastructure, all that supposed wealth that you're happy to brag about all the time, about how sustainable you are and how much the revenue has increased. It's all right saying those things, but then if on the pitch you're not winning anything or you're not performing, then it means nothing to supporters. And ultimately, what you need is an owner that has such a big ego that he wants to win everything, right? Yeah, but he also wants to make the club sustainable. Now, finding that person is very, very difficult. But that's the holy grail, if you like. That's what you're searching for.
One of the things we did hear from this evening, I think it was Sky News were reporting it about how I think it was the Lewis family, and obviously Joe Lewis's children are the ones that might be taking over, and they want to be really ambitious. They kind of I think they described the decision as they want to win more, and that was why the decision has been made. Do you think that might be the case of where we hopefully might see a bit more ambition in terms of from Joe Lewis's children?
Yeah, as I say, I think this window showed that they were aiming at a different caliber of player. So that in itself is a massive upgrade. I mean, before we were spending 47.5 million quid on Brennan Johnson and things like that, which the guy, he scores goals and all the rest of it, but it doesn't make you sit up and go, "God, Tottenham are serious," whereas I've seen rival fans this summer tweeting, actually, quite quietly, Tottenham have had a good window and they brought in some real proper sort of top shelf players, So yeah, I think that there's been little tiny signs of, and they've got to follow on from that. Obviously, you can't just do that for one window. In January, they've got to go bang. There's 70 million quid for a player. That's what we expect now. If you're going to come in and talk the talk, now you got to walk the walk, sort of thing. So, and obviously, I know January is difficult to do those sort of deals, but it's about the intent. I think if Spurs fans can see the intent of the board is to be successful on the pitch, they do not give a shit about how many concerts we can have on every night. You know what I mean? We don't care. It's all about the intent. So for now, the Lewis family are putting out these little sound bites through their minions to the media and all that, and that's great. But now you've got to deliver on that now.
It's quite interesting, Paul, because we've mentioned transfer window a few times, and as you've said there, the caliber of level of player, I think we can certainly all agree has gone up. But obviously, the window itself will be known for two of the highest profile failure of getting moves over the line: the Morgan Gibbs-White one and the Eberici Eze deals. And these two screamed as being classic Levy negotiation moves where, for whatever reason, I don't really blame the club for the Gibbs-White one. I think that's a very unique circumstance, which you might be able to give us some more info on this show. But the Eberici Eze one, where it felt like from the outside looking in, the club had a degree of a clear 5 to 7 day running at it, and just simply for whatever reason couldn't agree terms. You're more going to come on that point, but
no, they'd agreed terms. They'd agreed terms with Palace. They'd verbally agreed that the base number and everything around that deal, apart from the only thing they were still going on about was whether he would play in the Conference League, and it was all minor.
So that's what took that amount of time, the 5 to 7 days, in terms of what it felt like from the outside looking in terms of why it took so long to be in that position, only for Arsenal to come in, it felt, at the very last minute and take the player.
Yeah, but they'd agreed the base numbers that would make the deal work. So that wasn't the issue. And Parish kept stalling and pushing different things towards Levy, because I think it became a little bit of a battle between the two chairmen as well. So the relations there probably didn't help. There was a time when he was supposed to be having a meeting with Spurs and he was shopping in Carnaby Street and all this sort of stuff. So there there was a bit of friction there anyway. And from what I understand, it's speaking to some people that sort of had an actual hands-on in the deal. The player himself had basically said, if Arsenal don't come in for me, I'll sign for Tottenham.
Right.
And of course, the minute Arsenal said, well, actually, we will get involved, then the whole thing changes, and all of a sudden, it looks like Spurs have fucked the deal up. But I have sympathy for them on Eze because they were led up the garden path, and they were certainly led up the garden path with Morgan Gibbs-White. You can't blame the club for that. They were acting on information given to them. So, yeah, that whole episode was just very, very unfortunate for Tottenham, and it played out as well in the media, which they would have hated. I know they would have hated that, the fact that it got out, because as far as they was concerned, someone's told them, an intermediary or whoever it was has told them, this is the amount you need to bid in order to sign Morgan Gibbs-White, and they did it.
Yeah.
So what else can they do? Only for the chairman to turn around and say, "Oh, we're not selling him. We're going to renegotiate a contract with him ourselves."
I think the thing as well is when you look at even like the Hincapie situation, which feel free to come on to on this point, Paul. I think when Daniel went on the overlap and said, when it comes to negotiations, pretty much I'm front and centre when it comes to that point in that stage of the negotiations. I think to some fans out there, maybe not to all fans, you look at it and you think, well, couldn't get Gibbs-White done, couldn't get Eze done. The Hincapie one looks again quite messy. I think that's why you look back and think, how much involvement did Daniel Levy really have in this previous window? And did he have the same involvement when it comes to the deals of, like, for example, Xavi Simons and Callum Awani in the final days, which felt these were very much opportunistic moves that came up at the very late stage? No,
not at all. Not at all. Yeah, opportunistic in the sense that they went for Simmons because he couldn't agree with Chelsea. But that should be seen as a coup.
Oh, of course. No doubt. He's an amazing player, superb player.
They sometimes. Yeah, Johan on Spurs the other day when they released his chat or whatever, was saying, "Oh, we had bumps in the road," but I think people get sort of sidetracked with this. Oh, he was number one, he was number two, he was number three target. Essentially, what will happen is the club will identify X amount of players for X amount of positions. The same as they did with Hincapie, they identified him as a leading candidate to be the centre back. The minute they approached his club, the club said that they would deal. They would deal at 55 million plus 5 million add-ons. Right now, then they've obviously had talks in the meantime with the player who's indicated he's not interested. So that isn't a question of they fucked the deal up. That's a question of we looked, we fancied him, he didn't fancy us. That's it.
Yep.
The end of story. There's no reason to beat ourselves up over that one. So yeah, I don't think they necessarily messed the deals up.
Right.
Like years gone by when they had the likes of Jack Grealish, for example, sitting in Barcelona in Poch's property out there drinking wine with him, thinking he signed for Tottenham, and then Daniel fucked the negotiations up. So that sort of stuff has not happened. So yeah, and I think like they moved for Simmons because they saw that opportunity. Obviously, after they missed out on Morgan Gibbs-White, and they needed obviously someone for that centre mid, attacking mid position. But I think he was on a list for a long time, but they probably thought he's going to go to Chelsea, so they didn't act on that. So I think they've done quite well in the window. To be fair, it's not perfect. It's never perfect. We'll always sit here and we'll always look down. Well, we didn't do this and we didn't do that, but I think overall it was positive stuff.
The reason why it's intriguing, Paul, to ask you these questions is because again there'll be certain there'll be fans out there thinking to themselves, how influential was Daniel Levy in this window? Whereas Jamie said, just only a matter of 72 hours after it, he's departed. That's why, again, it's intriguing and fascinating to get your take on what did happen, what didn't happen, to get a gauge and to understand, well, just how much involvement did Daniel Levy have in his last ever window as the chairman of Tottenham, which, again, is fascinating because he's on the overlap only 4 weeks ago, stating that he's at the front and centre of the negotiations, which, again, is why I think for fans, it's a really intriguing point to get that take from you. It's fascinating. It is fascinating.
Well, he would have been front and centre of those negotiations also.
And that's despite the fact, Paul, that he would have known at that point he's not going to be the chairman of the football club.
But it's like you giving notice at a job, isn't it? You still got to work the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever. And he would have been, he's an ego-driven man, so he would have been in that position thinking that he can, get the best deal out of it, because ultimately Daniel wants to win negotiations, whether he's, no matter what he's negotiating for, and that's to his detriment sometimes. I think that his obsession with winning negotiations and being business savvy, has often held the club back, and that's I don't think it's in him to change that mentality in the last sort of month or so.
I know one of the famous sayings, I think it was from Sir Alex Ferguson, saying that dealing with Daniel Levy is like more painful than when he had his hip replacement. I wonder kind of his relationship with other chairmen, because as I said, like with Steve Parish, it seemed like there might have been issues. I know with Man City, we had the whole Carl Walker incident, and I don't know whether that came into play with Savinho negotiations. So do you think in that sense it might be a good thing that Daniel Levy has stepped aside?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it historically, you'll have seen who Spurs sign and where they sign them from under Daniel Levy's tenure. In the most recent years, you'll have seen that the relationships with the bigger clubs or bigger players' clubs, as obviously it's not feasible to target those players. So he's buying off the likes of Leicester, he's buying off the likes of previously Forest before this blew up, your Burnleys and your obscure French teams, and that because it makes you think that he's burnt so many bridges in the Premier League with the chairman that they just don't want to take him seriously. There, like I said before, I've tweeted this, that clubs used to fear Daniel Levy, and now they dread him. They're like, oh fucking hell, not him. So, and I think after 24 years of that, people have got sort of savvy to it, and those so-called minnows aren't so minnow anymore. So now they can fight back, and he would target players that had just been relegated, or he'd target players that are, coming out of their contracts and all that sort of stuff, and basically where he knew he could sort of bully them into selling their players, in my opinion. So I think that changes now. I think hopefully we get a lot more respect from the other clubs that we're trying to do deals with, and
that's my point to ask you, Paul. I was about to ask you that. What do you think? Again, it's hard to say because we're reflecting on this literally hours after his departure. Do you foresee in the long term this will be easier for Tottenham to go into negotiations when it comes to signing future players, or is that still difficult to know at this stage, given the fact that we are still only reacting to this news fresh off the press, essentially?
Yeah, it remains to be seen, and also it's not just necessarily about the chairman that you've got to sort of impress. It's the players. You've got to look like you're a serious football club. So if I'm a young player now, and albeit that would be a miracle, but if I was a young player now, looking at Tottenham, I think, fuck me, they're actually serious. They've won a trophy. They brought in a top manager, a well-respected manager. The players that they've signed are saying this guy, the manager is a top manager, and they want to see that there's a pathway there. So in that respect, I think that it's nothing but positive. And clubs may well feel, oh, thank God that we don't have to deal with him anymore, sort of thing. So yeah, that's certainly a possibility. You would envisage that the reputation and sort of the sort of bad feeling around Spurs will lessen now, I'd imagine.
Okay, look, we're going to squeeze in our first break of the show for our listeners on audio. We have got over 15,500 of you that are watching us live. Thank you so much, as always, for the incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. It was billed to be inside the window. I mean, look, we're inside somewhere, but it's... In true Tottenham fashion, we don't get a day off, and that was after doing the transfer deadline day with you guys. It's been
it's
crazy,
exciting, though, isn't it? I think it's something. It's the unknown. None of us know.
But you know what, Paul? When you've had 25 years, I said this on Sky earlier that it comes to a time where you just want to roll the dice and have a gamble, because the reality is, what is it? We look 2 trophies in the last 17 years.
Yeah,
I know you want more, we want more, the fans want more, and there's no guarantee, look, that we're going to get more. But the reality, the fact of the matter is that something is changing at Tottenham, and are we going to finally, it feels, realise the potential of this football club? Because all I know is that week we had when we won the trophy in Bilbao, we had the parade, and we saw over 200,000 Spurs fans, parade the streets of North London, and especially outside the stadium, you could see at that moment what this club could be if that investment was there, if the same ambition would be there to really realise that.
The way I look at it is that ENIC don't do this lightly. If they were happy with, and everything was going hunky-dory, if they were happy, they just sit back, count their money. Daniel Levy's earning them fortunes as far as, we're concerned as fans, right? On the surface anyway, right? There's no need for them to interfere and to cause. This is huge, not only for Tottenham, but it's huge for football, because Daniel Levy was a very, very powerful voice in the Premier League.
Was he on the NMA board? Forgive me.
Yeah, of course.
Board. Yep.
So this isn't a decision that they've made lightly and thinking, "Oh fuck, we don't know what we're doing now." These are very successful business people. Obviously, they have like 200 odd companies that they sort of have under their umbrella. So, the reason to be positive is these aren't no mugs, and they're making the biggest decision that anyone has known who's under the age of sort of 30, 40. So it's a seismic decision to get rid of. They got rid of Daniel Levy. You just think about that for a second. No one can do that lightly. You're either really brave or really, really stupid, one or the other. And I guess we'll find out.
We'll let Jay come in. Jay, let's hand over to you. I know you've got some questions for Paul.
Yeah, you obviously mentioned about young players coming in and being excited potentially about joining Spurs now, and they're really serious. The other one that I was thinking of is Christian Romero, because that was obviously, as you broke the story, came out of almost nowhere, really. I wonder whether he kind of got wind, because I think he's made it very vocal in the past what he thinks of Daniel Levy. So I wonder whether he kind of got wind of this news at all. I don't know if we know that.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have a clue on that one, but I would guess that in and around the Tottenham inner circles, people could probably sense different things, different approaches, perhaps the way the club were dealing with their players, more personable, but perhaps, I don't know. So maybe there was a different sort of sea change in how that was happening behind the scenes sort of thing. And they sort of saw a difference in it. I don't know whether Christian knew or what, but the way I look at it is it's a win-win for Spurs. We've kept the now captain, and we've got him on a long-term deal. We don't need to have that hunt around for a world-class centre-back. So, yeah, I mean, whether he knew or not, I couldn't comment on that. I'm not sure on that one.
Obviously, at the moment, like we've said, Paul, Vinay Venkatesham in control of the day-to-day running of the club. You've got Peter Charrington there as the non-exec chairman. As things stands at the moment, with the current structure and the setup, we're led to believe Tottenham is suggesting there's going to be no further changes at the moment. This is what it's going to be under this particular situation or structure, however you want to call it. So, with that being the case, then that we're not expecting someone to come in and actually replace Daniel Levy in that role. It's going to be Vinay running the show, Peter Charrington as a non-exec, and that's how it will be.
That's the way it sounds, and that's the sort of brief they're putting out, is that Vinay will be sort of stepping up to the sort of main man. But he may well bring in other members, new members.
That's what I was going to ask you. In terms of his capabilities, because again, he's come from Arsenal. What do you think of him assuming this responsibility of the role? So I presume even when it comes to, again, now, I would imagine transfer negotiations. The reason why I ask you this is that everybody that has known Tottenham and Daniel Levy has known Daniel Levy's been so involved, and I said this earlier, again, from the negotiations to what napkin goes out to the people that go on to, again, Tottenham on a match day, fans that sit in their seats or, have the hospitality, the napkins are almost Daniel Levy's picked them. So he's so involved in everything. Everything you see in the stadium is so precisely down to what Daniel Levy has chosen. That's why I'm so fascinated by this change now, and just how much of that now is assumed by Vinay or other people when it comes to the day-to-day running of the football club.
Yeah, no, I've said before on X and on these podcasts and other podcasts that, if you hear the same voices in the boardroom agreeing with each other all the time, this is you end up going. If you go down the wrong road, you end up stuck down that road. You never come out of it because everyone's still agreeing that you were right in the first place. And I've worked for businesses where you can see there's an issue and you highlight it to them because it's not their idea or it's not their way of doing it. They only know their way. They stick to what they know. And fresh eyes have obviously come over Spurs recently since Joe has been sort of cast aside, if you like, with his troubles and all the rest of it. And these younger members of the family have probably come in and looked at it and gone, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? And the major obstacle blocking that path would have been Daniel Levy, wouldn't it? So the only outcome can be that you remove Daniel Levy. So I just think it's very refreshing. I think Spurs, they removed Donna from the board. Obviously, they've removed Daniel now from the board. Matthew, I believe, is remaining. I'm not sure what the future holds for him. Obviously,
that's Matthew Collicott, of course. For those that aren't aware, Matthew Collicott.
And Rebecca's staying, as far as I'm aware. So there are a couple of voices that are still going to be there, and you need those incumbents to help the transitional period anyway. So they might have looked at it and gone, do you know what? If we'd have done this, if we'd have done that differently, we'd had a better outcome. They might well agree with us that off the pitch it's brilliant. It's been fantastic, but now on the pitch you're holding us back.
Just one other question before Jamie comes back in there, Paul. Daniel Levy, for those that aren't aware, I think still retains a smallish amount of share ownership in the club. I think, was it 20? I think 20%-ish. I mean, forgive me, I'm looking at the sums here. It's around the 29% mark, I believe.
28, 29, yeah.
28, 29%. Do you think, can you foresee a situation where ENIC or the children of Joe Lewis will try and buy Daniel out? How do you foresee that playing out potentially?
I think we'd all be guessing at this stage, to be fair.
Right, okay.
As far as I'm concerned, I think my personal opinion is that they'll probably want to get their feet under the desk properly, firmly for a season or two, and just see how the land lies. And obviously, they're an investment company, so ultimately, people don't put money into investments to never draw it out. That's not the whole premise. There's no point being an investment company if you never have an exit plan.
No, of course not.
Sense. So, I think whether a sale would be imminent, I don't see that. But then again, I didn't see Levy walking out or being pushed out today. So you never know in football. It's crazy, but maybe in a couple of years' time, if the club are more successful and even more sellable, then that's a different kettle of fish.
The one character I think I'm quite interested about in all this is Peter Charrington coming in. Almost, I think it was. Just really fascinating to kind of know his role. Do we know why he was the man that was selected to kind of come in and almost replace Daniel Levy?
No, that would have been an internal ENIC decision. They're going to know all the sort of the top candidates, aren't they, in that sort of field? I'm not going to have a clue about that sort of level of hiring and firing. That would have been a Tavistock / ENIC decision.
It's again, we keep using that word fascinating because I keep on saying this point. There are so many people out there that have only known what life is like under Daniel Levy. Like you said, Paul, at the moment, I think we're all in a degree of state of shock because what appears to be coming out is that Levy's going to depart with immediate effect. There is no notice period. No. I just wonder now.
He's done it, hasn't he? He's probably done it.
You think he's already done it? Okay. Yeah. The reason why I bring that up is the fact that what I'm intrigued to feel is there's a lot of people that have suggested Daniel's skill set would be worth holding on to in a different part of Tottenham, whether it's the element around the financials and the fact of not having him on the transfer scene. But is the biggest problem with Daniel is that, and this is again, I'm wording it here to say he just could never really ever relinquish control of that area, and therefore it made it very hard to really redeploy him anywhere else in the business. Is that probably one of the biggest issues they had when it came to Daniel?
You're not going to demote Daniel Levy, are you? And that would have been how it would have been viewed by the football world, I suppose. My personal opinion was that, or feelings was maybe he was going to be sort of the big overall ruler, if you like, of the club, but on a much more sort of grander scale. And then you had people underneath him. But obviously, ENIC didn't want to do that. And then I couldn't see a world where Daniel would agree, or they'd want to sort of diminish his role, and then he's some sort of just like a caricature sort of, puppet in the corner sort of thing. So yeah, I think that probably was never on the cards really. Even though, in some ways it did make sense to try and keep him on as a transitional period at least. But I think they've probably done the transitional period, to be fair. Well, they have, because obviously Vinay's been employed for the last 3 months. So
right, okay. So that's where you feel there's been a transition there. I never seen it.
Yeah, he's joined Tottenham, and he must have known what was planned. They're not going to spring it on him, say after a month, or by the way, in a month's time you're going to be running the whole operation. This must have already been done, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay.
The other fascinating thing you mentioned, Paul, and I really agree. I mean, I looked at kind of the transfer targets they were going for, really top echelon players. I mean, obviously Eze was one of them, Xavi Simons, these are top level players. So you mentioned there was a change in approach. It'd be interesting to know where that money was almost coming from. I wonder whether there was maybe some sort of outside investment that's come in at all, or was it just genuinely ENIC were really willing to push the boat out?
Yeah, so obviously around the same time, with the story with regards to the changes at boardroom level, we also got the information that there was some sort of investment coming into the club, but the source of it was unknown. Whether it was ENIC themselves putting money in, and how much we don't know as well, or whether it was someone else via ENIC that was putting the money in. There was some talk of them, changing the way they do their accounting, and factoring out so they could borrow against or ahead rather of the transfer of the TV money and things like that. So basically, say for example you were due to get £150 million from the TV revenue in July. There's companies out there that will lend you on the strength of it, and then you pay it back in July, for example. So there was talk of that sort of thing going on behind the scenes, and they did register a change on Companies House that was done on 29th of August with regards to a deal with a bank. But that I'm not sure yet whether that's the factoring of the money that's potentially due in TV revenue, or whether that's a cash injection from somewhere. And at the same time, I was also told that they're deep into negotiations with a major sponsorship. So, there's obviously a lot of things that have been going on in the last 2 to 3 months. And normally, we hear this as fans, and it's boring. We hear it all the time. Oh, they're going to be bought out. They're going to have this. They're going to have that. I get why people ridicule it and ridicule me for that sort of stuff, because I hate putting that sort of stuff out, mainly because we're all bored of hearing it, aren't we? We just want to see actual action. So it's going to be very interesting in the next, say, 2-3 months leading up to the January window. And then the January window itself, how they act in that window is going to be very interesting.
Well, that was just me what I was going to follow up on, maybe, because Savinho was obviously a player. I mean, wouldn't be a last one, Spurs, without me asking some transfer questions. But Savinho was obviously one of the key targets. It kind of felt like they wanted to go big on him from everything we heard. They were almost willing to pay a transfer record fee for him. He seemed keen on the move. I know you'd reported that Hincapié was another target. Obviously, we don't kind of know I don't think we exactly know the level of interest in Hincapié and how they tried to go for him, but it did seem like they had money for him as well. So potentially in January, might we see some of that money that might have been left over, or how do we think they're going to be in terms of the ambition?
Yeah, I mean, if any of those clubs would have said yes to dealing with us and the players on site, they would have signed. So they would have spent that money. So it wasn't a case of, we're gonna just throw a £70 million figure at some intermediaries at City, but I hope they don't accept, because then we'll be fucked. We don't really want to play it. But that just doesn't happen. So the whole identification of players in that role, in that left wing role, was outstanding. The names that they think that they were trying or have sort of on their list. So again, it was a different caliber of player. I know that they were sniffing heavily around, not for left wing, but attacking wise, that Semenyo at Bournemouth. Yeah. And that's something they could potentially revisit. So we're talking about the players that are a different wage bracket, not wage bracket, but price bracket.
Yep.
So if Man City says yes, we'll do a 75 million quid or 70 million quid, then Spurs would have had to pay it. So I don't think they were messing around in that respect. But the issue at City wasn't nothing to do with Tottenham. It's to do with an internal wrangling at City, where you've got Ferran, who runs the football operation of Man City, who does not want to sell the boy, and you had the manager who did want to sell him. So that's where Spurs got their sort of encouragement was from, that Pep Guardiola doesn't like to keep a player that would like to move, and the player himself would have agreed to a move to Tottenham. The issue was senior staff at Man City do not want to make the same mistake they did with other players, such as Palmer, who went to Chelsea. So that one, potentially we will revisit it. I don't think, even if we'd have offered 80 million in the summer window, I don't believe he would have signed for us. No, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But on the same token, if City had signed Rodrigo, they would have sold him.
Right. Okay.
So
it just shows you, doesn't it? It just shows you how the difference.
It's mental. Yeah.
I have to ask you, Paul, as well. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, that have campaigned for Daniel Levy to leave this club for a very, very long time. We've obviously had a great relationship with Change For Spurs, and we've supported them in the recent protests. I just wonder, for you as an outsider looking in, look, you're a massive Spurs fan. We know that. You've been with us here for many, many years on the show. How much do you think fan pressure has played its part in Daniel Levy stepping down from the club? Because that has obviously been one of the things that I had seen in this last 12, 18 months. Protests really ramp up. And look, Change For Spurs have been there, even when there hasn't been, even in the last few protests, there hasn't been massive, massive numbers there, but they've continued to be consistent in their approach. They want change for the football club. I mean, we saw last season when the club was sat 17th in the Premier League, the biggest ever protest against Daniel Levy. Nearly 3,500 turned out to that protest outside of the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Just how much of that do you think ENIC, obviously, like we said, the children of the Lewis family would have looked at that and think, we don't like this noise? How much do you think that would have played a part in Daniel Levy stepping down or being removed, for want of a better term?
Yeah, sorry. Someone just said in the chat, what about Rodgers? Johan Lang asked Aston Villa about Rodgers. Right. He was told unequivocally no, and then he was asked about price, and he was told the number will have to start with an 8. So that's on Rodgers. But okay. I think the likelihood is that next summer he'll move somewhere, but he could not end up at Tottenham, to be fair, because I think the numbers are mental.
Do you think it might be Chelsea? I've heard Chelsea, because obviously there's the link with Cole Palmer as well. I know Joe Shields worked with him at Manchester City.
Potentially, but it's going to be big money, proper big money. Yeah,
he'd have been I think he would have been the dream signing, because I mean, wow, he is. He's quite.
Yeah, Johan asked because obviously he had the relationship there, but they were told that even if they were to sell, the number would be sort of an 8 and upwards. So crazy money. But we've changed for Spurs. We sort of drifted off there, but
that's okay.
At the end of the day, no football club likes to have that sort of pressure put on them from supporters, because from a it's just a bad look. I mean, that one protest where the numbers were huge,
3,500. I was there. Yeah, I was there.
I know that shocked them. They were shocked by that. They were really shocked by that. Now, whether that fed into ENIC Towers thinking, hang on a minute, right, this is not something's not right here. We need to start looking closer at this. But potentially and probably, because no one likes bad press. Who wants to have 3,500 protesters outside your ground?
Of course,
on a match day, shouting, we want Levy out. The whole, and this is where I go back to the thing about Levy becoming bigger than the club. Because everything you associate with Tottenham is Daniel Levy, all the bad stuff, all the protests, all the can't get a deal over the line, the stereotypical, he's tight, and all the rest of it. All that stuff, it just feeds into one sort of cauldron where if you're ENIC, you're suddenly thinking he's not a great look for our business, So I think, did they force the change on their own? No. A combination of many, many events have probably done that, but it certainly wouldn't have helped, or not. It depends how you look at it, but it would have helped the cause of those supporters of Levy out. But certainly the club would have sat up, and like I say, the big protest, then that really shocked them. They were surprised by that.
I've personally described the fact it's felt with Daniel in the last, I would say, 2.5, 3 years. Certainly, it feels since the Pochettino exit that we were almost stuck in this kind of Mike Ashley hamster wheel, where we were kind of existing, but not really showing any degree of real, genuine ambition to want to take the club forward to the next level. How excited are you, Paul, by what the future holds for Tottenham now? I mean, look, it's a step into the unknown, but also at the same time, it's a step where, let's be honest about it, many fans would ideally want to see and roll the dice, because for a club the size of Tottenham, fan base the size that we are, we know that what we saw in Bilbao, and I go back to that parade, 2 trophies in 17 years isn't enough, and we could see, what the club's potential was on that day of the parade. It's a massive football club, right? A massive football club.
It is, and maybe people at ENIC may have been sitting around the table going, why aren't we winning stuff every single year, or at least every other year, or every third or fourth year? What on earth have we? We've put 24 years into this club. We put and they will have put billions into it. In I know it generated the funds itself, but it's still on paper their money that they've had to reinvest into the business. And I know the business generated it. However, they'll look back and go, hang on, Daniel Levy spent over £1 billion on players. £1 billion. Yeah. So where's the reward? We've had one night in Bilbao was fantastic, and we can never take away from that achievement or that feeling. But it was in a year where the CL dropouts and all the rest of it don't go into the competition, blah, blah, blah. So, when you look at his sporting success, he's an epic failure. But when you look at his commercial success, he's been unbelievably successful in that respect. And it's trying to get them to meet in the middle. And that's the fine. But and maybe ENIC believe that they can do that without him as being the obstacle in the way. It remains to be seen. Like everyone, we've been here. We've not been exactly here, but we've been here before about new regimes and new dawns, and we're going to go down the data-led scouting route, and we're going to do this, and we're going to become a Brighton, and we've been there only 18 months ago, 2 years ago, and then that all sort of got to the wayside as well. So now it looks like we're going to have another different recruitment policy. So let's see what happens on that one.
And forgive me,
I think it's 2 trophies actually.
Yeah, so. Forgive me. It is 2 trophies in, like I say, 25 years. Forgive me. JR, let you have the final word. I can tell you that I've just seen Crackers, Jason, and Lee McQueen come through casting. Jason's getting a lovely back rub there. I can tell you before we bring him on.
Lee's probably been drinking champagne all night, hasn't he? He's been dancing around the living room.
Well, I think Lee will definitely tell you how he's feeling in a second. Jay, let's hand back to you.
I mean, obviously, just a crazy evening at Spurs, as you said at the start of the show, John. So much happened over the summer, and really, really interesting debate in terms of Daniel Levy and his tenure. He mentioned that he might finally get that credit, and as Paul said, the infrastructure that he's built. I think whatever comes next, they've got a real strong platform to build on. I think that's, I think most people can acknowledge that what he's done for this football club is fantastic in building that stadium. Xavi Simons even recently spoke that big reason that he signed was because of that stadium. So, I think that's really exciting that, that everything we've got to build on. But again, as Paul made very clear, I think that he wasn't the man to get us over the line. So, let's see.
Okay. Jay, you've been a star. Paul, are you staying with us a bit longer? Am I bringing you in the cavalry?
Yeah, why not? I want to just listen to Lee's bragging, to be fair.
Lee's not a bragger. Lee won't say too much. He won't say too much.
He keeps moaning that we don't do a pod together. So this will be the first time. And he gets to brag about his ITK. So yeah.
Okay. Well, Tier 1 McQueen is in the background. We're gonna bring him in. We're gonna say thank you to the wonderful Jamie Brown at Daily Hotspur. Jay, thank you. It's never a transfer window until Paul O Keefe shuts it. So we did get Paul O Keefe to shut it. We know at the same time that Daniel Levy was going out with him. But there you go. Jay, thank you so much. We are going to go for our next break of our show for our listeners on audio. Listen, we'll hear from what was one of the very final interviews from Daniel Levy, where he told us what the intentions were. Jamie, thank you so much. After the break, in is coming Richard Crackers Cracknell, Jason McGovern, Lee McQueen, and Paul O Keefe staying for a bit longer. Jay, you're a star. Let's go for that next break.
It's what we haven't done that is more important. We need to win the league. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. But, we want to win.
Hello and welcome back to the second part of the Last Word on Spurs. We've got the originals, the founders that are here as we reflect on the news that Daniel Levy has left Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. I can't quite believe I'm saying that. It's been a crazy last 24 hours where I know a lot of the fan base are rejoicing. There are some that are maybe a little bit anxious to what comes next, but what comes next is change. And with change does come excitement. With change does come new opportunities, new plans. Let's see. I'm joined by Lee McQueen. I'm joined by Jason McGovern. I'm joined by Richard's Crackers Cracknell. We've got over nearly 13,500 of you watching us live. If you can keep liking, subscribing to the show, that will be greatly appreciated. Should we hand over to Lee McQueen? We can see Lee's ready to go. Let's hand over to Lee. Lee, let's hand over to you. Look,
Lee, before Lee starts, we've all seen the was it the Jack Daniels advert where the guy walks down the beach in just his budgie smugglers and a pair of shoes and a little tumbler of Jack Daniels, or was it Southern? I think it might have been Southern Comfort actually. I can see Lee just walking down the beach in his budgie smugglers with shoes on and his little tumbler. It's like, told ya. Carry on, Lee.
Go on, Lee. How are you, mate? You okay?
Why does someone call me Lee? I'm fucking Macca. I'm good, mate. Thank you. I'm really good. Thanks very much. And I think it's the day that we were all, hoping. Well, I say all. Most of us were hoping for that was going to happen. I weren't hoping. I already knew. I knew on the June the 2nd team. You know what I mean? But no, look. All jokes aside, I mean, I think. You get a lot of hate on the cesspit that is Twitter, don't you, at the end of the day? Maybe one day I'll show you all my hate DMs. But it's not about validation or being vindicated. It's about the fact that our wonderful football club is now going to go into a new era, isn't it? So most of the time we wanted this to happen. There's been massive protests. There's been, change for Tottenham, change for Spurs, all the work that they've been doing. The earlier adopters, if you like, of the protest as well back in the day, of which some of us didn't get quite on with for whatever reasons. But the reality is our football club. That's what we're all here for. It's what we love talking about. It is in a new era, and the information that's out there tonight. I mean, Paul will know anyway. I'm sure he knows much more than I do. But the information that I've got is that there isn't a takeover happening. I might well be wrong, but it's difficult to see that I am, team. Do you know what I mean? Like after just what's happened. So, but I think that what's coming out in Sky Sports News is essentially what I've been hearing, which is it's a new era of the old guard, but within the new era. And it was abundantly clear that there was a boardroom. Well, it was abundantly clear to me and some others that it was a boardroom struggle. Even as far back as before the Europa League final. So this hasn't just happened today. This has been going on in the background for a while. And the thing is, like Paul, you'll know, from your information that some of these deals that have been done this summer. Look, let me ask you a question, team. Right, here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the summer that we've just had is a Daniel Levy type summer? That don't feel like it, does it? So
I mean, some of the failures, yes, but the signings, no.
There was a big clue, exactly. There was a big clue, and so doing big deals and like spending £60 million deals and stuff. That's just not, And
Lee, do you know what it was like? It was like the movie Grease, wasn't it? Sandy in her little rah-rah skirts and her pumps and her little flat shoes and John Travolta, I love you. And then all of a sudden at the end, last window was like Sandy at the end of Grease, wasn't it? With the skin tight black leather trousers on and the top and the hair all curled. It was day and night. It was absolutely day and night. You could see it coming. Everybody looked at who we was buying and what we was in for and the money being spent. And everybody just went, well, I mean, the thing went round on Twitter, who's stolen Daniel Levy's credit card?
Yeah.
Simple as that. So the clues were there.
Yeah, exactly. Paul, would you? I mean, sorry, I know you've just been on for an hour beforehand, but in terms of the transfer window, and you were seeing the differences, or noticing the differences, or different noises coming out of the club, that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, we touched on it just briefly before, but I mean, you know, they signed Kudus for 55 million, and the very next day tried to drop 60 on Morgan Gibbs-White. So, you know, that is not Tottenham Hotspur behaviour. You know, as I said in the show previous to you guys coming on, you know, if that was Daniel Levy, you'd have had a French winger from some unknown club for 15 million quid. So, you know, that's just not. But that's not how he operates. So, yes, it was, because, like I say, I think the window was successful, and I think that it was very pointed. It was very disciplined in who they targeted, what areas they targeted. They were unfortunate with the left wing situation. They were unfortunate with the centre back situation, but they didn't do what they would normally do: is revert to type and just buy a £15 million centre back from lower leagues of Italian or French football or the Championship just to throw him in for a body. They actually remain disciplined and go, you know what? We'll wait our opportunity to get the player we actually want. So that, to me, forgetting Daniel Levy leaving, is a massive change. And if that's going to be their serious approach, you know, similar to what Liverpool did when they identified a centre back, they waited, and they got their man. So, you know, and I think that to me was a significant difference in this window. And the more I reflect on the window, the more I think it was successful.
Yeah.
Jace, let's bring you in. Like I say, it's a massive day. It is an iconic day in the fan base. You know, we all spoke about the day, but when it actually arrives, you know, you still have to process this. There's a lot of people, I said that, you know, younger viewers and listeners of Last Word on Spurs have only known Daniel Levy. So when you've only known one person to be at the higher or the top of the football club, or, you know, chairman of the club, that takes some understanding that you've seen more than Daniel Levy here in terms of chairman. So what's your reaction to Daniel Levy stepping down? Say being put down, but stepping aside. What was your reaction to it?
Well, I wonder what was going on with my phone, because I was doing my usual, engrossed in the cricket. What a brilliant game of cricket at Lord's today. And then suddenly my phone was exploding with everyone telling me, Lee was right. And I'm thinking, Leo, what are you talking about? And then suddenly I suddenly put two and two together and realised what it was when I saw the news. Yeah, I mean, Crackers and I, Daniel Levy was our fourth chairman. And I'm probably more in favour of Daniel Levy than I was the third chairman in Alan Sugar, who, of course, Lee knows pretty well. But no, monumental day. It's what we've wanted, you know, for a long time. And I think over the past 2 or 3 years, the pace has just got too much. I heard Jamie talk about, I think Jamie said on BBC tonight, it's almost as if the club finally outgrew him. I think Paul's right that, you know, they used to be scared of him, now they dread him calling. And just, I think that, you know, the club needed the fresh face, didn't it? And almost, you know, as we talked about the perfect ending for Sonny being a trophy, maybe that was the perfect ending for Daniel. He finally has the second trophy, and now it's time to go. So I think just, it's probably the best day of the transfer window of the summer. And I think, yeah, it definitely lifts a lot of the negativity around the club. And I still want to see what the future's like before I completely go and dance around the moon type of thing. But it's definitely a step in the positive step in the right direction, mate. That's for sure. And fresh start. Let's see where it takes us.
Yeah, I mean, Cracks, come over to you. You've never been too shy to hide your feelings, I think it's fair to say. What's your reaction to this news? How do you take it?
It's strange, Rick, isn't it? Evening, everybody. Listen, I hope everybody's well, everybody's all good, because the sun comes up tomorrow morning.
I mean, people haven't seen you for about 3 months. They might have thought you've been kidnapped by Daniel Levy.
Listen, at the end of the day, it's just football. We're just fans. It doesn't put dinner on the table, and it's not your health, and it's not your wealth, and it's not your family. So, like, don't go too deep on it. But yeah, it's a weird feeling, Rick, for me, and I think a lot of people are feeling the same. Of it's been a long campaign of we want Levy out, we want Levy out, and all of a sudden he's out, and everybody's gone. We want okay, he's gone.
Don't worry, mate. We'll find something. We're Spurs fans. We'll find something else to moan
of course
about.
we will. We'll find something to moan
Don't
about.
worry about this. They'll be moaning about it before the end of the show. Don't worry about that.
And everybody's like, okay, he's gone. Oh, he's gone. So everybody's just in this transitional period now of processing this. And it's very difficult, unless you're Lee McQueen, of course, who's like Nostradamus, to be able to tell you what's coming down the track. So I think everybody should.
Or shall I save that for another show?
Save it for another show, of course. Just like it's just processing it at the moment, and to see what's coming down the track for us. If Lee's correct, and there's no reason to doubt that he isn't, and it stays within the Lewis family, then let's be a little bit careful here, because it sounds like that there's a multitude of family members that have now taken over from dear old Uncle Joe. And when families start to work together, sometimes that can be a little bit oil of water, and one family member will want this and another family member will want that. So we need to be a little bit careful. I don't know. I've got a feeling that a sale's coming, to be honest, a total sale, that the decks have been cleared and a sale is coming, because we've gone from a chairman that's been in situ for 25 years and run the club in a certain way, to handing the reins over to a man that you just would pass by in the aisles of Tesco's and just go, oh, like, you know, you just very, very nondescript, very, very sort of low key person that has come into the club on a very, very low key level, if you like. There was no song and dance of him coming in at all. He's a banker. He's very well versed in the.
What did you call him?
A banker. For those of you listening in medium wave, I said banker, not something else.
It's only been here 5 minutes.
But I get the feeling that he looks a little bit like Ryan Mason in a cup final at the moment, waiting, just sort of holding position until somebody comes in. So okay. I don't know. Yeah, I get the feeling that something's coming down the track for Tottenham Hotspur. And like I've always said, Rick, I would like ENIC to go. I would like Daniel Levy to go. That's happened today. But also do be careful for what you wish for as well. Do really be careful, because I'm sure we'll get into that, what the future looks like. But there is elements of this to think to yourself, you know, this isn't the yellow brick road to Oz here, or the potential to not be. But listen, this is what we all wanted. None of us can go back on our word now and we now don't want this. The genie's out of the bottle, he's gone. So it's all about what's coming down the track for us.
Yeah, I think Vinay will be the front and centre, though. He's going to be front of house. It won't be Peter Charrington. So I think we need to make that, you know, quite clear. Peter Charrington will be the sort of the brains above, if you like, the money man, I suppose. I don't know, but
right.
Yeah, Vinay is going to be front of house, so he'll be the man that will be in the firing line the most.
So, from your understanding, Paul, he will be doing the negotiations. Mm-hmm. He will be the man, like you said, front and centre of that.
Yeah. That's what I understand. Yeah,
Lee was saying the same thing from his perspective. He doesn't understand it to be any form of a takeover, which again is interesting, because the fact of the matter is that we've all wanted, you know, I think on here, common consensus is that I think we all feel the right time has been for Daniel to go. But the key thing is ENIC is still here. So the thing is whether ENIC are going to change
what they've
been about.
Exactly, and the signs so far, albeit little signs that we've seen through the summer transfer window with the different caliber of players that they're targeting, they're only little minuscule signs. With some of the comms, which has been a lot better lately, with regards to the output there. So there's been little tiny signs that they're going to do a different approach. So, like I said earlier, if they were happy with Daniel Levy and happy with how the operation was going, then they just stick. They don't need to twist. They took a massive twist here, and they're gambling a £4 billion operation. So no one does that lightly. No one gets rid of Daniel Levy lightly. After 24 years of him being, like I say, he is the face of Tottenham. There's a group of people that have grown up. They don't know any other Tottenham than Daniel Levy's Tottenham. So you don't make that decision on a whim. These are successful people that have not launched one business, but 200, 300, 400 businesses and been successful in all of them. So these people, they're now, the organ grinder is now playing the organ. So let's see what happens there. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well. I mean, the exact numbers I don't have in front of me. It's gone past 11 o'clock, but that's 29% or 29.4%.
Yeah, 88%.
That Daniel Levy owns, but it's not of the full club. It's only of 90% or 88.2% or whatever of what ENIC owns, because the others is shared around. So if you think about it in terms of an overall shareholding, my maths is not going to be great, but I think Daniel as an overall shareholding would be about 22% of the overall club. That's still a nice shareholding, but equally, again, I had this massive debate about 4 or 5 months ago with a few different people, and what people seem to forget. Yes, it's a big shareholding, but just because you've got a big shareholding doesn't mean to say that you've got full control. And Daniel's had full control, and now he hasn't. And it's quite interesting that. And this is why my information is that there's not going to be a significant takeover from an external. That could change, obviously. Everything changes.
Of course it can.
24 hours is a long time in football, right? But ultimately, when you look at Peter Charrington coming in, he was a Lewis guy, right? Vinay coming in, Lewis guy. Yeah, these were guys that were coming in, or girls, people coming in that were Lewis side, not Levy side. And then I talk about there was a war in the boardroom, or a struggle in the boardroom. This is typical, right, of big corporate organisations, big businesses that we don't see, and that is what Tottenham Hotspurs has been in. So there would have been a struggle. Again, Paul can probably tell you more details than me, but there would have been a struggle in signings to a certain degree of who wanted what, because that's what was happening at the time, even with the manager.
Yeah,
I don't think it was a cut and dried across the board of Ange going. I think the new era was very much in favour of Ange going. I'm not quite sure, and I think that when, again, just from what I know, and it's very little really, but when Donna Cullen was said to be standing down, some people said she was retiring and so on and so forth. She was stood down. Make no bones about that, and that was the first brick, if you like, coming out of the Jenga wall, right? That's what it was, and now we sit here tonight with the tower, the Jenga tower of Levy has fallen, and now that we come in that new era, and look, you can't really be any more anything other than optimistic and looking forward now, because yes, this might happen and that might happen, but team, let's not overthink it, right? At the end of the day, we just got rid of a guy, or he stepped down after 25 years. We've had no difference in 25 years. You could write the freaking script every single season. That you're getting a Nielsen, that you're getting Asaha. You know it. That's what's happening. That's what Paul was saying. And all of a sudden, like seasons ago, it started to change up a bit. Now, this isn't a 5-minute job, right? This has been in the making for a while. And also as well, don't forget, driven by the Lewis family, the Lewis family or Joe himself had some freaking problems, didn't they? Let's be honest about it. We don't want to get into it for legal reasons, but they had some problems over the last couple of years, and maybe that's why it's been simmering and now it's boiled, right? I don't know, in between the lines.
And also, like, how many clubs would you hear that, like with Spurs all the time? You hear, oh yeah, Daniel Levy, that's a player he likes, and like, what relevance is that? The chairman likes a footballer, but you would hear that with Tottenham.
Yeah,
many times when I talk
the
about
club,
players,
the club signings, these club signings.
I would interactions on WhatsApp with various people, agents, whatever, blah blah. Send you a message. Yeah, Daniel really likes this player. You think to yourself, what the fuck's it got to do with him? You know,
Totally.
and Daniel Levy is. Oh, Daniel Levy's wanted James Maddison for years. Well, that's fantastic, and James is a great footballer. Don't get me wrong, but when you step back and think, hang on a minute. What relevance is he to the footballing decisions? But that's how big he was at Tottenham. You know, that's the influence he carried.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, coming down to you, Jace, what's quite fascinating is that I said to Paul earlier that it's the thing about deploying Daniel elsewhere, because he was such a control freak on everything. It would have been very hard to see a way in which he would have been able to be relinquished from the transfer side of things and moved to another part of the business. I mean, you said it yourself, this is your fourth chairman as a fan of Tottenham. Is it too early, Jace, to ask you how you think he'll be remembered at this stage, or do you have to see what the future looks like to be able to say that? I'll let you unmute from your end if you can. You tell us what you think on that point.
Well, it would depend, won't it? Some people will judge him purely on the basis of on the pitch. But his job as a chairman isn't just on the pitch. That's the primary part of it. But you can't deny the club is in a much better position than we were when he took it over. You can't deny that stadium and training grounds being built. You know, the standing within the community and things like that. They're all important jobs that he's done for the football club. So you certainly can't say he's been a disastrous chairman. And even on the footballing side, like I say, I remember our previous chairman chucking Jurgen Klinsmann's shirt on a live TV broadcast saying it's not fit to wash your car with. So, you know, I'm certainly, if you offered me Daniel Levy as a football chairman, or Alan Sugar that told me we can't sign Bergkamp, we're not signing any more Carlos Kickerballs because Klinsmann went home after 12 months or whatever, Daniel Levy's been a lot better on the football side for me than Alan Sugar has. And for a lot of Daniel Levy's early years, he had to arrest the position that Alan Sugar had dropped us down to. Don't forget, when Alan Sugar took us over, we were a genuine member of the so-called Big Five, and we ended up through Alan Sugar's year as a side that fought more relegation battles than we were in Europe. And perhaps without that 1999 League Cup, there wasn't a lot more to be happy about. And I remember when Daniel Levy came in, fans at the time singing, "We've got our Tottenham back," because that was the state of the club that they took over. So, you know, for me, Daniel Levy was an improvement on what we had. But as time has gone on, and certainly since the stadium opened, and that famous thing at the time when we were building the stadium, that it will be the game changer. Well, it was certainly the game changer financially, but I think we all took that as a sign that this will be the game changer that puts Tottenham back on the top. Now, in fairness to him, multi-club ownership and things like that has come in, and just look at the transfer window this week, at some of the things that have been going on between Strasbourg and Chelsea. So I think Daniel's ownership model probably of 15 years ago would have looked a damn sight better without, you know, but he fell behind in how others manipulated the rules, and that's counted against him and has gone against us as a club. But we're definitely in a better position now, but it will be remembered, only 2 trophies, the longest trophy drought in Tottenham's history, and sadly, you know, on the pitch at the end, it's not been as we wanted.
And Rick, do you know what? Even prior to Sugar, I'm just reading a fantastic book on the 91 FA Cup season from Ewan Flynn that he's written. I don't think it's been released yet, but he sent me through a copy of it because I set up a couple of interviews for him. When Scholar was at the club, you should read the sorry shit state that like the training facilities was in and the club was in. No hot water, no electricity to the treatment room, etc., etc. Honestly, we was in a mess, and Sugar actually tidied that up a little bit, and we still look at him and go, blimey, like, you know, he was terrible. So
I don't look at it like that. I look at it as saved Spurs from Ivan Scholar's mess. That's what I look at.
There you go. I mean,
and he also stopped us from getting six points deducted. He took them through the court. He put them through the cleaners and got the 6 points back, which would have probably got us relegated. He also won us an FA Cup as well, which is the last FA Cup that we won. So obviously, I'm defending my boss, as I call him, the boss. But do you know what I mean? Like, that's, you know, for 10 years, he got two trophies in 10 years and saved the club. Although
you can also still argue with Alan Sugar here. Tottenham's last big signing was under him, Jurgen Klinsmann.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
And Rick, there lies the issue.
And why we're here. And
Daniel, why we're here now. Daniel, you cannot deny, has run an unbelievable club, infrastructure-wise, etc., etc. But as I've always said, he was a coward on the football side. He never once went, go on then, fuck it, get him. I know that's 10 grand more a week than I wanted to pay, and I know that pushes the envelope a bit, but get him. And that's the problem. So I think Daniel walks away from Tottenham Hotspur and he will be lauded in the business media and in the business magazines, and he'll do interviews. And if he walks into a business convention, he'll get huge pats on the back for what he's done. And it's an important part of football now. But when you come to the man in the street like us, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker that buys their tickets, the streets will turn around and go, coward. He never went and got that player X. He bottled out and he got player Y because he was 10 grand a week less. And that's a problem. So in some respects, Daniel's been the best, worst chairman we've ever had. Because, but you know, maybe people like Jason and I look at these previous chairmen and some of the shit story states that we got into, and I mean real bad situations. Like with Scholar was the complete opposite of Daniel Levy. It was a mess behind the scenes on the business front, but went out and got Paul Gascoigne, and went out and bought Paul Stewart, and went out and got Paul Walsh and Gary Lineker and Naeem, and put that together. And you look at that and you go, for us on the pitch, fantastic. What a team. That's brilliant. But behind the scenes, it was a sorry old state. So on balance, you look at it and you go, seeing as football's now about big business and finance more than it's ever been, then I don't know. Maybe what he said in that interview with the mayor of Manchester, Gary Neville, I don't know. Maybe where he said one day the fans may turn round and appreciate what I've done. Maybe he's primed the club up and plumped the club up and put lipstick on it to the point where somebody goes, the infrastructure of this place is unbelievable. Let's go in and buy it, and we'll run a fantastic football club and a business. But that's down the track. We don't know. We don't know what's coming. Let's see.
I think an important point that's always glossed over, though, is that ENIC got into Tottenham just before the Sky TV boom, when money came into football that absolutely revolutionised the game. So ENIC's timing was impeccable. You know, kudos to that. Well done. So all this stuff about, Tottenham were nothing before Daniel Levy. No, they were nothing before Sky TV money, like many clubs. So, and they were playing in a 36,000 arena, blah, blah, blah. And obviously moving to the stadium, I just think that the beast has got a little bit too big for Daniel as well. And one man can't control that whole operation now. Yep. So they looked at it and gone, actually, he's slipping in this department. He's slipping in that department. He's letting, he's losing touch in this department. Plus, his name is synonymous with being, a bad reputation ultimately. And that bad reputation reflects on the club. So the club now is this gigantic machine that is bigger than Daniel Levy, and I believe that Daniel Levy thought he was bigger than the machine, and he isn't. So
who was one of the first chairmen to sort out a Sky deal as well?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it's crazy that he then got out when all his companies were making the dishes. So you know,
he ultimately sold Amstrad to Sky. It ended up being a Sky business in the end.
Yeah. So I think people don't realise that, especially like the sort of the younger fans, and that's not disrespectful to them, but the money that came into football from Sky TV, eye-watering, absolutely eye-watering. You know, players' wages all of a sudden were just ridiculous. So anyway, that's
even more so, Paul. When Satanta went bust.
Yeah.
Because they were doing all the look at the mess that left behind when Satanta went bust.
So it really gnaws me when people say, "Oh, you might do a Leeds or that." That's almost impossible for a Premier League team to do that now, because of the parachute payments and all the caveats that go with it. You know, so that used to be an accusation that was thrown against anti-Levy, if you like. It was, oh well, I could do a Leeds without Daniel Levy. Utter nonsense. That is pure nonsense. Almost impossible for a Premier League side to end up in that sort of difficulties now.
Listen, we're going to go for our next break of the show for our listeners and audio. We're going to bring in Billie T from Change For Spurs. Bill is going to react on the back of the news that Daniel Levy has stepped down as Tottenham Hotspur chairman. Let's go for that break, and we'll be back with you after this.
Simple. We've got our Tottenham back. That's.
Have we, though? Listen, we've got Billie T joining us here. If you're with us for the first time, you can, of course, find us. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, across all major audio platforms. We've got nearly over 30,500 of you that are watching us live. Thank you ever so much for all your support. Bill, just a quiet day at the office. We've just recovered from the transfer window. And
guys, I haven't been online all day. What have I missed? What? Something's happened.
Oh, something's happened. What a crazy day, Bill. Crazy day.
I was driving. As usual, I was driving and I rang you as soon as it happened. I'm still speechless. I'm still speechless, to be honest. And I've just been watching this, elite panel talking about it, and it's not sinking in. It's not sinking in, but I'm happy, excited for the future.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Rick, can I jump in there and just say fair play to Change for Tottenham? Because, look, I know people went, oh, well, yeah, there's a couple of thousand people on the march. There might be 3,000. There might be this. People went out and marched, as you did, Rick, as you did, Jason, and everybody else. And even if it isn't huge numbers, we're in an era and a time of optics within football being so important, probably more important than the football itself. Now, if you've got a couple of 3,000 people making a good bit of noise with some brilliant, very out there, bold banners marching and saying we're not happy with things, that makes sponsors and powerful people jittery. Now, I'm not saying that Change for Tottenham brought about what's happened today, but they would have certainly helped. In a gunfight, they would have been stabbing a few people, put it that way. So it's, what they've done would have expedited and would have certainly been spoke about in the halls of powers that's happened. So Change for Tottenham have certainly helped rather than hindered to bring about the change that this club really badly needed. So Billy and everybody else that got that off the ground and everybody that went on those marches, well done.
And thank you very much. And I would just say, we, I don't think it's about what we did. I think it's really just about the fact that Tottenham fans came together. And I know people, you can analyze the numbers all day. 2,000 compared to 60,000 in the stadium is whatever. But the fact is, there was a lot of fans on those occasions that had just had enough. had enough of this football club and the way that it's being ran. And all Change for Tottenham did was provide a platform for people to come together. It's not about the work that we did. It's not about Change for Tottenham have done this or anything like that. It's just about the fact that we gave a platform, and certainly wouldn't be anywhere near as successful in that protest without the support of this show and the unwavering support we've had from Ricky. It was really, really, from the bottom of my heart, means a lot. But at the end of the day, it was just the fact that Tottenham fans, joined up in unison and stood on the streets because they had enough, and they've been doing that for years. And so I really appreciate it.
He's gone. What do you think? Let's hear from you, mate. He's gone.
Listen,
he's actually gone. See you later. Goodbye.
Listen, my daughter is 4 years old, and I'm sorry to say, but this is the best day of my life. So it's usurps the birth of my daughter. That's how I feel.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, Lee, coming out of you, like I say, because you've had the same person there for a quarter of a century, that long, and then what you start thinking about now is kind of what comes next for Tottenham. Everyone's gonna be kind of turning to you, Lee, going, "Well, God, then what's happening with the January window?" But do you think, Lee, now a lot of people look kind of now, and this is a good kind of point to come to on this point, is when it comes to January, Lee, this is the thing, isn't it? And we'll circle back around upon this as well. That was the summer a one-off, or are we going to see that level of caliber of targets maintained when it comes to January? Do you have genuine hope, Lee, that we have really turned the corner as a club, and this is a new, exciting era that we can really look forward to seeing the club really focus on the on-pitch success? Because you were there in Bilbao. Again, you were around thousands of Spurs fans that listen and watch this show as well. We all want to see the club be successful. We don't want to have to wait another 17 years for a trophy and experience what we experienced in Bilbao, right? This is why, again, you'd like to think we are making these decisions from the very top.
I think, you made a really good point right at the end there, from the very top. I mean, we've said it on this show countless times that, leadership, culture, values, it comes from the top. And, whether or not, and Paul's even said it tonight on the show, that even, one man, it can make a difference. One man can make a difference, but he was making a difference in the wrong way. The values of the club, let's just play this forward, right? To answer your question, yes, I think the January transfer will be different. The window will be different. I absolutely do. I think that now other clubs may want to deal with Spurs a little bit more now, depending on, who they're going to be dealing with. Like if it's Vinay as an example, Paratigi's coming back into the fold. We know how Paratigi's operated in the past when he goes out for 5-6 targets, and then, if we don't get one, we'll get the other one, and that type of thing. Maybe there's a fog that's lifted from that negotiation, from that transfer. I heard Henry Winter on Sky Sports News doing the back pages just before coming on live with you guys, and he was talking about that. At the beginning, it was kind of like really good that Daniel negotiates, and actually from a Michael Carrick perspective, I think they were looking at 12 million, and Daniel Levy pushed it up to 18 million, and that's great. But over the years, that's become, how much time did we give Leon? I don't know the chairman's names and whatever, but the Leon situation, the Forest situation, the other situation where did Sir Alex Ferguson come out famous and say he's the demon of the worst person to deal with? So maybe with that lifted, and with this new era coming through, that I've got no doubt, based on what I know, which is that there's a new era, like we all now know. I've got no doubt that the January transfer window will be different. Now, here's the thing, and I'm not qualified to talk about this as much as some of the other people on the panel, but here's the thing. I don't mean to say that the players are going to come if we're not going to start paying the wages. And it's the wages that ends up being an issue. I don't know, Paul, if you agree with us or not. We speak about this quite a lot, but you're going to go and shell out 55 million on Kudos, but if he wants... Sorry, it's a big fly. If Kudos wants 200 grand a week, he ain't coming to Tottenham. So, that has always been the major thing. And actually to change that, move that shift from 42% revenue to wage ratio to 60%, 65% becomes a big project in itself. And that's maybe where Charrington, with his finance side of things, is going to balance that out. I don't know, but I do think that there will be differences in the transfer window, and I think that we'll be going for different targets. I think, as Paul said earlier, I think we've already seen that. Like getting Simmons over the line and Kudos over the line and going for we didn't sign Morgan Gibbs-White because of that other chairman fella, which we won't name him. Yeah, we won't name him. But going for these types of players is and being there. Yes, we tried, and we've back. It's been a bat, hasn't it, to beat Levy with Spurs tried, but you're not going to always get everybody that you want. But there's money there, and clearly they're trying to spend it.
Yeah, Jason, to bring you in, I know you want to make a point there.
Yeah, just on the January window as you go forward, and I see people talking about it. Don't get yourselves wrong; there will still be negotiations. Tottenham won't pick the phone up to Barcelona and say how much is Rafinha. Oh, he's 120 minutes. Okay, we pay it. How much does he want in wages? 400. Okay, we pay it.
Yeah, of course.
There was still, and I sincerely hope we'd still have a chairman that will negotiate deals. Because I tell you what, there's 91 other chairmen in the league that still negotiate transfer deals. It's not like a supermarket. There's the price on the sticker, and you just go and pay it. Otherwise, you'd end up overpaying. So, there will still be negotiations, and a club will still have to run to a budget. So it might be a bigger budget than we've had before, but whoever sets that budget will still say your budget in this January window is 150 million or whatever. And if you overspend, you'll have to sell somebody or to make that budget up. That's how every single business in the world works. So just because Daniel Levy's gone, don't expect us to just write a check out as soon as the price comes up. This is this, off it goes. Of course, you still negotiate.
But that also comes down to the sort of caliber of player that you're targeting. Because obviously, if you start targeting Xavi Simons and players of that ilk, you're going to have to appreciate that their wages demands are going to be higher in the first instance.
Yep.
So, they've already shown with him, he's on a considerable salary. And they've also shown with Kuti, who's the highest paid player at the club, on nearly 200 and something £1,000 a week, or just on 200,000. So they have shown that sort of intent this summer. They've got two players on extremely high wages. That one has come into the club, and one is obviously the captain. So, that sort of caliber of player, they already know they're not wet behind the ears. That you're going to have to start offering, better salary in that respect. And we spoke. Well, Lee mentioned Paratici, but I'm not sure what his role, or if he'll have a role now. So
that's what's fascinating. To ask you that.
Yeah, I don't know, because he was Daniel's man. Him and Daniel were like tight, proper tight.
So you personally think that maybe the fact Daniel goes puts his potential role into doubt?
I wouldn't put it as a guarantee that he comes to the club now. I wouldn't guarantee it, but of course we wouldn't rule it out, because he's obviously got a relationship with Tottenham, but his relationship was heavily with Daniel, and actually it was Paratici and Daniel that led the negotiations on Eze. Johan wasn't involved in that, so that's it could be quite significant for him and his potential employment at Tottenham, because I'm not sure which way that goes, to be honest. That's a toss of a coin.
Right. Okay. It's interesting because, again, it's like we said there. There's, as you said, Paul, as well. There is still people that are on that board that have been at the club for many, many years, the likes of Rebecca Cable-Horn, Matthew Collicott. But then at the same time, I just wonder, as a non-exec chairman, and sorry to sound, again, maybe not knowledgeable on this point, just how much involvement will Peter Charrington have, in your opinion, Paul? What will he be doing on that board, in your opinion?
Rick, never mind all them people. Just give the job to Ben Davis. He's seen them all off. The whole lot. Daddy Davis. He's there. He was there before. He'll be there after. There he is. Look at him. Look. He's seen it all.
The rate he's going, he'll see James stuff at this rate.
Been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Carry on, Paul.
And Ben had the opportunity to go to Wrexham and turn it down. So there you go. You can have that.
There you go.
I think he'll end up being a coach at Spurs, or a coach somewhere. So he's obviously, a mainstay of the club, as Crackers alludes to. Now I've forgotten what we were talking about before. Well, I was asking
about Charrington and where you think
Charrington. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so it's so, this news is so sort of fresh. I'm still a bit shocked, to be fair.
I think we all.
So I think something you say now could be complete bollocks come tomorrow. So
like a lot what's in on this show, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, and as I'm frequently told, a lot of stuff I say. So, yeah, look, as far as I can see, I would imagine he's sort of the overall overseer of the business, and
Right.
Vinay will report to him. But day-to-day operations, I believe, seem to be that they'll be run by Vinay and his executive team, as he likes to call them. So, probably we get new members of staff, although they haven't hinted at that yet. So yeah, it'd be very interesting. The recruitment part is very, very interesting. As I say, I'm not sure what happens with Paratici on that one, so that's interesting. So yeah, the January window will be fascinating to see the approach, because they, like I said earlier, now they've sort of like they've made a rod for their own back a little bit, because they've removed this so-called obstacle that was holding the club back, and they've said through their little minions, you know, we want to win more things than what they achieve, basically. So, you know, you've got to start walking the walk when you start talking like that, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's fascinating,
Paul,
really fascinating.
Paul, I wonder if Daniel knew what was coming down the track for him in the interviews where he done. Yeah. And as a little bit of an FU, he went, we want to win the league. We want to win the Champions League.
Yeah,
knowing that it wasn't no longer his responsibility, and knew that the fan base would go, well, the club has said that we want to do this and we want to do this, so we better be buying some players. So he's all of a sudden just lifted everybody's expectations and gone, okay, over to you guys. Go and buy the players that's going to achieve that. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
I mean, the timeline, sorry, Paul, the timeline does suggest that, because when he came out and done that interview, I'd already put out here that he was going. So I got massive heat, because they were like, oh, what, you think he's going now? I'll show you the DMs one day. You think he's going? You're full of shit. You're useless. You ain't got a clue, blah, blah, blah. And here we are.
That was just us. That was just us.
Yeah,
Lee, can I just say,
WhatsApp group.
Lee, I always backed you, bro. I was there from day one. I stayed faithful, mate. I stayed faithful.
How long ago was that, Lee? Because I've been told tonight that Daniel was told 2 months ago that he's going.
June the 2nd.
Was that July?
2 months ago.
Yeah,
September
now.
That's 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months.
Matt Law says that it's been under review since the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
That's feasible.
Under review.
Under review.
Sorry, Rick. I know he's a guest, but if Matt Law told me it was Thursday, I'd go and look at a calendar. Come on. Stop it.
Yeah.
You know,
another biffer bin, as Jason would call them.
It was Jason with every journalist on it. Bless him. Bill, let's come to you for a second. What's kind of the next now for Change for Spurs? I have to ask you that, because
fold. Fuck it. See, you've done it, mate. You've done it.
My work here is done.
It's completed. It's completed, team. It's brilliant.
We're done.
But it's
no. For real though, obviously we have to see what comes next. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's obviously our primary objective has always been about the ownership, just because it's been so omnipresent since
The reason why I ask that, Bill, is obviously the reason why I ask that is obviously the ownership are still there. The ENIC are still there. Obviously, Daniel has stepped aside. I guess it's just a case of for you guys seeing how they operate now without Daniel being there. Because again, let's be honest about it. If we go into the January transfer window and we do have a couple again of high-profile failures, fans will look at that and think, well, has much really changed? Do you know what I mean? So I think it's very fascinating. Again, like we say now, it's hard to believe this change. I think we're going to have to sleep on it for a few days to actually believe this has even happened.
Of course.
It's Tottenham has become, as Paul, you said it, Daniel Levy's Tottenham. Everything synonymous with Tottenham
exactly
about,
how I feel as well.
Failing to get over the line. You even look back at, our failure in terms of trophies. That's to say that Daniel's reign. Obviously we have Bilbao in there. We had the League Cup against Chelsea. But you look at obviously the history of Spurs failing to get over the line. Daniel Levy's been, and Daniel Levy's obviously been one of the key things Paul mentioned about that.
Yeah, and his biggest problem there was after those defeats, at the time to react and do something, and then use that almost as a springboard to go forward. And that guy used to just, like I said earlier on X, he'd take the horse to water, and then it wouldn't drink, and then he'd do nothing. We had this when we smashed Liverpool at Wembley, blah blah blah, and from that moment on, he had the opportunity to press the button and to really go for it, but he was always too risk averse, and he's always that was the
And I
issue.
think
It's not about losing those finals; it's how you react afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think we've been told so
Liverpool
many
lost
times,
finals.
haven't we, that Daniel Levy is going to step back from football.
Yeah.
Prachi is going to come in. And this is obviously the most extreme example, as extreme as you can literally get. But let's make no mistake about it. He's going to be involved somewhere in the background. Like, he's still a shareholder in
But he's still got the percentage there, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing now. We say Daniel's now left, or like you say, Paul, he might have already served the notice, but he's not just going to have gone, Paul, is he? He's still going to have some form of. He's going to be around, isn't he?
So he's left his role.
Yeah,
it's important to say that he's left his role as chairman of the club. So he isn't going to part with those shares unless ENIC have a plan to buy him out or whatever. I don't know. But when it comes to, he couldn't return to Tottenham in a working capacity now, obviously, because they've made. He would look at that absolute buffoon if he was to do that. And he'd have to be hired.
He has to be hired again
in a very senior role. So that obviously. And they don't see him as a fit for their business, clearly, because that's why they've orchestrated the removal of him.
That's the point I was making earlier about kind of voting rights around shareholdings without getting into it too much. Is that okay? He might have a vote, he might have one seat at the table, and might have one vote. But if the rest of them are voting against him, which is essentially what I read in between lines, what was happening, because Charrington's and everything else, then
it's also complicated, isn't it? Because it says that he owns X amount of shares that are a beneficiary trust, and it's all a bit. We don't actually know the full ins and outs of how much he actually does have involved. And it's like me having shares in BT. I mean, they're not going to start running the company, so I don't see how in any world you bring him back in any capacity now, having done this to him and made it's almost like a public sort of hanging in a way, isn't it? So and they've literally sort of wanted to cut ties almost, and they can thank him as much as they like in statements, but ultimately he hasn't just I've had enough of Tottenham. That's not Daniel Levy. Tottenham was his life, lived and breathed it, worked 24 hours a day on the club, and we know how obsessed he was. So
do you know what, Rick? At the end of the day, though, and Jason will probably agree with this, as fans, all we want is to turn up, be entertained, have a Hoddle, or a Gascoigne, or a Klinsmann, or a Ginola, and just turn up for our 60, 70 quid a week, whatever it costs, and just go and be entertained and see a bit of football. And sometimes you'll win it, sometimes you'll lose it. And if it's Joe Lewis, Leona Lewis, or Martin Lewis running the club, we don't care. We honestly don't care. We just want to go along, be entertained, and see a good game of football, meet up with some people, have a couple of beers, and go home happy at the end of the day.
The reason why I'm laughing is that we were told last season we were being entertained and it was 17th, but I do understand the point you're making. But we won a trophy. We won a trophy.
Don't start him off. Start him off.
Not that kind of entertainment, for God's sake. It was quite interesting just to read out some of the points that are coming out from the Lewis side of things. They've insisted the change in Daniel Levy, as Paul's also mentioned, Lee as well has mentioned, is the fact that they're putting sporting success first at Tottenham and it's described as a new era. As Paul suggested as well and told us, and Lee as well, that this has been set in motion pretty much at the beginning of the year. They had a review carried out by the American consultants, the Gibb River Group. Tavistock, the investment firm founded by Lewis, whose family trust holds the controlling ownership of Spurs, was said to be involved in that review, put Levy's running of this club firmly under the spotlight. And Vinod Venkateshan was understood to have sent an email to staff to say this was a significant, obviously, piece of news and the fact that it is still business as usual. I just wonder, Paul, on that point, because of the way Tottenham is run and Daniel was across everything, how do you think staff will react to Daniel's departure?
That's a trick question,
isn't
it?
Have I thrown you a hospital ball there?
I'm sure they'll be devastated.
Paul, what's your favourite chocolate? I'll get you off of that question. I'll get you off the hook. Mine.
What I am going to do on that point, I'm going to hand to Billie T.
We all love being micromanaged anyway.
Absolutely. I'm going to hand to Billy because Billy has got a dash. Bill, let me give you the final word on this point for you before we let you go. Bill, it's been like I say, it's an iconic day, a monumental day in the landscape of Tottenham where we will see what comes next, right, Bill?
We certainly will, mate. This is only the beginning, so let's see where we go from here. And I'd just like to say thank you so much for having me on tonight. I feel like I'm in the Avengers for tonight. This is an elite panel. This is like the Spurs Avengers join tonight. Avengers assemble. Just to formally announce that our next protest will be taking place at the next home game, but it will not be a protest, it will be a party. So we'll see you on the high roads. Bring your drinks, bring your flags, jelly and ice cream. Let's get it.
Bill, you're a star. Bill, thank you ever so much. Wonderful Billy T.
Love you all,
guys. Love you too, mate. Listen, the final question I suppose to you always, we've discussed Levy and his reign and obviously what comes next. I mean, we've also discussed kind of how he'll be remembered. I mean, what do you think, final question to you all, and maybe start with you, Paul, what's next for Daniel Levy? Maybe people won't be interested in Daniel Levy next, but what do you think is next for Daniel Levy? Can you just see him leaving football behind, a man that's been involved for the last quarter of a century? Do you think he's done from the game?
I think he's done in this country, actually. I think he's going to move to abroad. So, it's funny because now when you look back at the conversations you've had with people and, when they changed the law on the tax system in this country about non-doms and all the rest of it, I was told then that he was looking to exit the country. So I wasn't sure how that was going to work because you can only be in the country a certain amount of weeks and all the rest of it per year, can't you, if you're non-dom. They don't call it non-dom anymore, but that's a thing of the past. But yeah, I think from what I understand, he's going to move abroad. His daughter's now.
Don't say non-dom when we've got no Solanke at the moment, Paul.
Well, yes.
As I understand it,
Tottenham are non-dom at the moment.
I don't know as fact, but I think that that he may well end up being, sipping a cocktail or two with Joe in the Bahamas or somewhere.
I think, as I understand it, team, and you've heard it here first. Time and date stamp it is the bomber. I think he's going in the jungle. I think he's going to be in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Daniel Levy in the jungle. Raise your hands if you want to see that. Come on, let's start putting him in there. That would be.
That's worth a season ticket.
That's worth one, I'll tell you.
Oh, can you imagine, Daniel, with the dingo dollars? We can give you 20 dingo dollars if you get into this coffin with a load of snakes. Can we make it 23? Honestly, you'd have four episodes of it of him just negotiating how much to get into a coffin with the snakes, wouldn't you?
Brilliant. I ain't getting in that unless there's 25 snakes in there.
Final word to you all, guys. Look, again, a day that for some it's going to take a lot to process this, but in terms of how excited you are for Spurs' future, let's start with you, Jason. How excited you are for Tottenham without Daniel Levy as chairman?
I'm always excited for Tottenham's future, mate. I booked up to go to Monaco. That's how excited I am at the moment, and that was under Daniel Levy. So let's get to January.
Does it change your feeling about Tottenham in general right now? Do you look at it as a brighter future?
There's definitely positivities. I think we might see the biggest difference. I think will come next summer. As Paul says, January. You're not going to go out and buy 5 players in January, are you? And particularly with that old boring chestnut squad registration rules, you can't make 5 signings in January anyway. So I think we might get a nice big January signing, and that'll be it. But the real change, I think, you'll come and see next summer. But you'll probably still get 1 or 2 price rises for your seats, and there'll probably still be, the Tottenham are not suddenly going to become free tickets for everybody, and your bar and chocolate at half times now only going to be 50p and things like that. There'll still be economics driving it, but definitely a brighter future than we thought we had 24 hours ago.
Cracks, it went from ding dong the witch is dead to suddenly Daniel Levy going.
Well, listen, the signs were all there, wasn't they? You could just see him getting isolated. The moment that his gripper lieutenant in Donna went, okay, he's getting isolated. And then in come Vinay, and you thought to yourself, okay, he's getting isolated. But the biggest key teller for me, and it's probably just come from experience of where I live now and living amongst South Americans, was Christian Romero. and South Americans will always tell you how they're feeling. And last season, he was absolutely scorched earth, wasn't he? This club shit. I'm not getting looked after medically. I'm off to Argentina. I'm not playing for you. I play for Argentina. And then all of a sudden, it went wallop. I'm captain. This is the greatest club on earth. I'm playing up to the last minute before I have to get onto a plane to go to Argentina. And you looked at that and you went, something's going on here, because that's just not the South American way of doing things. And there's definitely something going on because of his attitude, and everything just changed, flipped 180. So, Rick, I don't know what the future holds for Tottenham now. It could be absolutely fantastic, or this could be really not that great at all. As I've always said, be careful what you wish for, because when Newcastle got their new owners with the Saudis, they were absolutely cock-a-hoop. We're the richest club in the world. We're going to win everything. Now you come forward. Paul, how long have they been in Newcastle? 2 years now? About 2 years. Now, don't forget, Fenway have got a huge tie-up with the Saudis via golf and other business opportunities that they're exploring. So the Liverpool's now in bed with the PIF fund, the same as Newcastle is. Newcastle's just lost their best player to Liverpool. So even if the Saudis do come down the track for Tottenham, that might not be the knight in shining armor that you want. So just like a note of caution for what's coming down the track with us. If it stays in ENIC's hands, okay, and if they want to run it better than it has been run, and they're raising money ethically as well, because that's a whole another show as well, Rick, by the way, the ethics of all of this, and we haven't got time for it now. So just a little note of caution as to where we're going and what's going to happen with Tottenham.
Yeah,
I think it's a chance that we needed to take and should take. Nobody should be 25 years in a football club. Nobody. Absolutely nobody.
Managers, Barcelona, when they get re-elected, the president gets re-elected.
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
It needs fresh eyes. It needs fresh voices. Football is an ever-churning business, except for the fans. It's weird because the fans are in for life and everybody else churns.
Yep. So
let's see what comes down the track. I don't know yet. Nobody knows. This could be brilliant. This could be... this really could be quite like, oh my God, like, can Daniel Levy come back, please? I don't know. Let's see. Merry Christmas, everyone.
We'll go to lead and we'll close on Paul. Macca, you predicted it. It happened. And we're now waiting to see what comes next. Football, right? Football.
Felice Navidad, crackers. Yeah, look, I'm optimistic because, well,
bless you.
And two, I've seen it with my own eyeballs, as we all have, with as Paul's touching upon right at the beginning when we came on. You know, the signings have been different, and there is a different way of managing that. And you know, the bottleneck, for want of a better expression, is gone. I will give him his dues. There's aspects. I've been on this show before and said, look, the business aspect of Daniel has been insanely good and great, but I will caveat that by saying what Jay said earlier about the business that Chelsea are doing and finding little loopholes, and whether or not that's ethical or not. A loophole doesn't mean you're doing anything illegal. A loophole means that you've been clever enough to find it and use it. And actually, maybe Tottenham have been too clean. I remember Daniel coming out and saying maybe 3 seasons ago, the PSR will change the game. We are going to be top up because of the PSR. Well, it ain't, because they're still signing Isaacs and they're still signing, you know, Haaland, and they're still signing whatevers, and we're not. So, you know, maybe we were too clean. Maybe clean's the wrong word because that feels a bit murky. You know, maybe we just wasn't clever enough to find the loopholes. However, he has done an amazing job That stadium is absolutely world class. There's no doubt about that. And that will be his legacy. But unfortunately, his legacy will always be, for me and for most of us, you're just too short. We were too short FC. We're always too short. Paul touched upon it. I think Cracker said it right at the beginning, that Paul referenced it as being too risk averse, and Cracker's mentioned it about being too bottling it when we have an opportunity, a window of opportunity, a sliding doors moment. When we smashed Liverpool 4-1, as Paul referenced, at Wembley, that was their sliding doors moment, and they went out and got the players that they needed. And look at them now, they're winning leagues and they're signing things. They won a Champions League. If that was our sliding doors moment at that point, we didn't do anything about it, and we just sat back and left. I mean, this is a chairman that oversaw 518 days without a fucking signing. Excuse me, but hello, are you joking me? And you know, everyone in the world knows that if you don't make a signing, you're going backwards.
You're left behind.
You're already going backwards. So you know, we had an absolute guy that literally was our club. He literally was Tottenham Hotspur in terms of Poch, and he sacked him at the first wobble under Poch. He sacked him, and I won't forgive him for that. I think, you know, that there's been decisions that he's made through the footballing side, which we all know are very well documented, and that's what his legacy will be. And I do like the pints in the stadium that fill up from the bottom of the glass. I think that's great. But look, he's done some good things, but he's also done some bad things. There was a poll on Sky Sports News before I come on here, and they're running a poll. Did he do a good job? Yes or no? 49% yes, 51% no. I'm thinking there's got to be a lot of gooners or whatever that vote for a laugh. Got to be.
Yeah.
Got to be.
Sounds like the Brexit vote.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. That's exactly what it sounded like. So I think, for me, in summary, what holds, I think for those of you who are holding this is out there, right? For those of you who are holding out for some big Saudi takeover, I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I think you're going to see a bit of stability with the new era, and I think that you'll see some really good positive things on the football side. I think they know what they want to do, and again, Leeds and everything, Paul, you mentioned earlier about Leeds. You know, you've got to remember that Daniel Levy was controlling the club. He doesn't own it. The people that own it is ENIC, and they're still there, and that's the Lewis family, and that's what they're still doing. So, you know, it's going to be managed differently, but it's still owned in the same way. So, you know, the Lewis family who own the club, ENIC who own the club, they don't have PIF or whatever it is, a PIF fund, do they? They're not a Saudi state.
No.
You know, maybe they're worth 3 billion, maybe they're worth 2, maybe their assets are 5 billion, but they're not.
Yep.
They're not going to come in and just start tanking a load of money in there without external investment. So maybe that comes in as well.
Macca, thank you so much. We'll let you get back to replying to all those DMs in terms of letting everyone know you feel accordingly. Macca, you've been a superstar.
Mate. Let them stew in it.
Go on, Jason. We'll go
Rick,
Paul. Close.
Yeah, Rick, you know who else is short? Your graphics guy, because he's left a cup final off that list.
Well, look, it's we will, like I say, wish. It's been, like I say, it's been one of those shows where I think we're all reacting as we go here. You don't know where it's going to go next. But Paul, let's close with you. We started it with you. Let's close with you. I don't think when we planned to do this show, we ever thought it was going to be this. Although, like we said, between you and Lee, you were hearing murmurs of this. I know Lee, especially going back to June. That's how long ago it was. June, Lee heard this. So I guess we're going to see what comes next, Paul, right? And what comes next remains to be seen.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, I don't think these people, you know, it's not as if they don't know what they're doing. They're very, very successful business people. They're not going to make a decision, such a seismic decision as this. This is massive. This is a huge, probably the biggest rocket in football for the last few years. The fact that Daniel Levy has left Tottenham. Daniel Levy is Tottenham, you know, as it's been synonymous with him.
Will it change? I mean, on that point, actually, to close with, will it change even the culture at Tottenham, or the feeling around Tottenham, or what the outside perspective is around Tottenham by Daniel Levy not being there?
Exactly. And I think that's what they're hoping for, to be fair. I think that, you know, they keep referencing a new era and all that sort of stuff. So they're hot on that sort of soundbite and that sort of narrative, if you like. But ultimately, this would have been, they know the ramifications of this getting it wrong, obviously. you don't go into this blindly. So that gives me optimism that these people know what they're doing. And if they've got ambitions, like I said, that are to win on the pitch, as well as their 20 Beyonce concerts or whatever, we don't care. Ultimately, it's what happens on the pitch. And then, like I say, we've seen positive signs with the different sort of targeting of a more high caliber player this summer. So, people will argue that they've only spent 100 mil or whatever, but no reasons to be cheerful. I'm gonna have to go because my AirPods have just died, so I can't hear you.
Listen, guys,
I can just about.
It's been a show that I think all of us were unprepared for, but in true Tottenham fashion, we've managed to make it work. I want to say a massive thank you to the wonderful Lee McQueen, who people ask me. I think Lee is now going to be looking to return on a more regular basis. And like I say, it's been a crazy period in your life, Lee. So, mate, thank you so much. We're going to see you back.
DM me, team. DM me. Elite Retreats. Get yourself on my programs. That's what you need. You want a bit of macro in your life, you have it the whole time. Come on.
Is Daniel going on it?
Yeah, Lee. Get Daniel on now.
Get Daniel on it.
I've had a DM from him tonight, you know what I mean?
Jace, thank you so much. Just another one bites the dust in your world, right? You've seen there's number 4, number 5 off.
Number 4's gone. Number 5's incoming.
Or is it?
And there you go, Rick. There you go. They come, they go, they come, they go.
And we're here. And we're still here.
And we're here. And we're here. And everybody tuning in is here because we go from cradle to grave. And these players go and they come and the managers go and they come and they come and they go. But it's us and we hand it down to our kids and then they hand it down to their kids.
God help them.
Yeah, exactly. It's character building, as I've always said. So listen, sun comes up tomorrow morning and Tottenham play West Ham. Whoever's owning them, whoever's managing them, whoever's playing for them, and we'll turn up in our droves and support them. And if you don't like all this drama, then please fuck off to Last Word on Rochdale, who are currently discussing the colour of the tea shed at the back of the East Stand and how Beryl's changed the recipe in the steak and kidney pies that they sell for £2.20 at half time. If you don't like this, you can go to that. It's no problem. I could
do a week over there. I could do a quiet week.
You can discuss that, Rick, if you want. Go over a Last Word on Rochdale. I'm sure they'll be
Crackers
happy.
has turned into fucking Churchill here.
Come on.
Well, on that point, I'm off to Rochdale from Lee.
I want to try the pies now.
I tell you, what a show! What a show! Who saw this coming? Lee did. Lee from Lee McQueen, from Jason McGovern, from Crackers, and from the wonderful Paul O Keefe. We have been the Last Word on Spurs. We're meant to be chilling. It's an international break, but I've got a feeling we're only just getting started. A new era awaits. Are you ready? From us all, keep safe, keep well. Thank you so much for your incredible support. And as always, come on, you Spurs.